Hello, everyone. I'm Fyruz Khan, and today I'm back with a brand new class. So, if you haven't followed our page, you can go to Facebook and just type in Fyruz Education Services. We have plenty of videos. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have great videos out there, and everything is synchronized in a playlist, and that's why it's so easy to find them. Um, let's wait for some students to join, and we shall start very soon. It's a very interesting lesson that we have designed for you today. Okay, let's go ahead. So, as you can see on the slide, I have a picture of the new president of United States, Mr. Joe Biden. And when before he got elected, when he was doing his campaign, because when presidents or prime minister gets elected, they run campaigns and they will tell you what they want for the country, what they want in the future. And he said when he was running for the campaign, he said that he wanted to keep costs low. Right? He wanted products to be affordable enough so that everybody could buy things. He also said he wanted to create more jobs, more employment, because when you have more jobs, you're earning money. He also emphasized on increasing the value of currency, the value of dollar, because when you increase the value of dollar, the value of currency increases. You can buy more things internationally. Let's say if $1 is equal to 86 taka, can he make it to $1? Can he transfer it to $1 equals to 95 taka or 100 taka? In that way, the value of dollar will increase more. He said that he wants to create, and this was one of his main agenda. He said he wants to create a better and affordable healthcare system, because in America healthcare is very good, but again, on the other hand, healthcare is very, very expensive. Okay, it is very expensive. You need to have expensive insurances, and Obama did make a lot of difference, but then he said he's going to work from that, and he's going to make a better healthcare system where people can buy affordable health insurance, and it's not going to be expensive. He also said that he's going to create reduce wealth inequalities, which means that the difference between a rich person and the difference between someone who is from a middle class family will not be greater. If you look at Asian economies, if you look at countries like India, if you look at countries like Bangladesh, if you look at countries like Pakistan, there's a huge wealth difference. There's a huge wealth inequality. Rich people are very rich, poor people are very poor, and that's really, really bad. Okay, so he said he is going to reduce wealth inequalities where the wealth is equally distributed. If you look at countries like America or US or Australia, someone whose income is very high can afford to have a BMW or a Mercedes. Someone's income is not so high, let's say average, they can also afford BMW or Mercedes. They can also afford a very good house. That's how the economy is designed, or that's how the economy is structured. Okay, so this is very important. And he also said that he's going to balance the economy. Sorry, there's a spelling mistake. It's my typing error. So these are the things that he said before being elected as the president. And these are the common things that we get to hear. If you look at our honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, when she got elected in 2018 for her third term, if you look at Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he got elected last year, he even said the same things. And I checked their speeches on YouTube, and it was almost the same thing. So when a new government is elected, when you have new prime minister, new head of state, these are the things that they often talk about. Okay, and why do they talk about these things? We need to look at that. It's quite interesting. So let's have a look. So economic objectives of the government, okay, they're likely to include economic growth. Economic growth means gross domestic product, to make more to make more products so that the value is more. To make sure that you make products for everything. You make garments, you make phones, you make consumer items, you make fast moving consumer goods. In that way, you're creating variety for the people. In that way, you'll be creating more jobs. So it will include economic growth. It will include low price inflation, which means that at that the rate at which price increases of a product should not be more. For example, let's say the price for this product last year, let's say it was $400. This year, let's say it's $402. So the rate at which the price is increasing is not so much. This is good. But for example, if the price for this product was $400, and next year if it is, let's say, $500, then you need to be worried. Okay, now the prices for goods cannot increase so much every year or every term or every 5 years. This has been a big problem in Asian economies, especially Bangladesh. I feel, my personal opinion, I feel that the inflation rate is quite high. Every year, the prices for products, the prices for basic goods like rice, bread, or even apartments, everything is increasing at a rapid pace, and we need to control that. Okay, low rate of unemployment. Government wants to create more jobs, more employment, so that people can earn money. And what happens when you earn money? Because everybody talks about, okay, we need to create jobs, we need to create low rate of unemployment. But when you have jobs, what happens? When you have jobs, you earn money, and with that money you spend more, because when you earn more money, you have more spending power, you have power to buy goods, and that is good in a way. So it's like a cycle. You earn and then you spend. Okay. um then a long-term balance of payments. Balance of payments means import goods coming in, and export. Now, import and export should be balanced. One should not be greater than the other, because if one is greater, let's say if export is greater, then your economy is not balanced. Okay, it should be balanced in such a way that both should be equal. Otherwise, there will be problem with your exchange rate. There will be other problems. Okay, so yeah. um and then you also have exchange rate stability. Let's say if $1 is equals to 85 taka, tomorrow you don't want it to be $1 equals to 50 taka. That's a wild swing. Okay, you need to keep it balanced. If today it's $1 85 taka, tomorrow it can be $1 86 taka. That's not much of a change. So your exchange rate should be stable with other currencies worldwide. So Bangladeshi currency BDT should be stable against dollar, against euro, against pounds, against Australian dollars. Otherwise, there will be wild swings, and people would not trade with Bangladesh, because there's always this fluctuation going on, up and down, up and down. You want to avoid that. Then we've talked about this, wealth and income transfers. Now in India, you have rich people like the Ambanis. They're worth $1 billion, but then poor people are so poor. That also happens in our country, but you don't want that to happen. If someone's rich, okay, that's fine, but that gap should not be so much, because in that way you're creating a very imbalanced economy. Someone who's rich has all the power, and they can do anything and everything. So if someone has $1 billion, and if you don't have any money, that person can literally smash you and step over you, and that's not good. Okay, power will lie in just one person. So you want to in a way create create a balanced economy by making sure that the wealth is distributed equally. Okay. And that should be one of the reason. Now, economic growth is so important because GDP is very important. Now, what is GDP? Let's talk about it. When you walk into a supermarket or a store, there are so many products, especially in countries like in the Western economies, especially in the countries like America, Australia, UK. When you walk into the store, when you walk into the supermarket, they have variety of product. Okay. Now, GDP means gross domestic product, and gross domestic product means it's a total monetary or market value. Okay. How much does the country make in terms of product? What is the value? Okay. Um, so that is GDP. Right now, when GDP is high, that is good. Why? That means the country is manufacturing more products, more goods. Okay. And when you make more products, you make more products with more variations. Now, think about now when you, these are all concepts of Western economies. You have white bread, you have brown bread, you have 50-50 white and brown together. You have organic bread, organic vegetables, you have organic honey, you have this and that. So when GDP is high, you're also creating product with variations. You have the same phone with different colors. You have the same phone with different specification. You have the same vegetable with different, I don't know, with something different. And and if you walk into a supermarket in the Western economy, you will be really surprised that for everything they have a variation. And when GDP is high, when you have a lot of product with variation, your living standard increases because now you are exposed to better goods and better services. Before you had white bread, and now you have brown bread. You have organic vegetables. You had, you have access to smartphones. You have access to internet. You have access to this. You have access to better healthcare, and that increases your living standard. I can tell you one thing. When I left the country in 2007 or 8, when I was going abroad to study, the country was very different because the internet was not booming at that point of time. I still remember if I had to buy clothes or jeans, I had to go to Bongo Bazaar and New Market. But now I can just sit down here, use my phone. There are thousands of online stores available on Facebook, and I can just order them. Right? Living standard has increased remarkably in the last 10 years in Bangladesh, and hats off to the government because their initiative was to focus on digitalization, right? So that increases your living standard, right? And not only that, it creates employment opportunities because now you're making more product with variation. You're making this, you're making that, so people are employed. And when people are employed, poverty can be reduced. People will not live in poverty. Your income, your average household income will increase. And when average household income increases, as I said, your spending power increases. Now you're going to spend more, you're going to buy more, and that's what I've seen with Bangladeshi people. That people are spending more and buying more, right? So that's that. Just give me a minute. I was just trying to fix the position of my camera. Right. And when you make more products, you also pay a lot of taxes to the government, right? And that's good for the government because when you make more products, more items, let it be anything. Whenever you make something, you need to pay taxes and VATs to the government, whether it's product or services, it doesn't matter. Right. So if we go a step back, economic growth is important because GDP increases living standard. When you make more product, it creates employment. Okay. When you create more employment, you're paying taxes to the government. Then government focuses on creating better, let's say, health system, creating better education system. Okay. um, so there we go. And absolute poverty can be reduced. So think about that. Then you have more resources available. Government will get more money. So all those things are there, right? So this is why economy is so important. Okay, economic growth in a country is so important. So next time when a prime minister or president is talking about economic growth, you actually know what they're talking about, right? Because economic growth can happen because of technology. And I've talked about this. Bangladesh focused on digitalization because they knew that digitalization can solve a lot of problems. You don't need an office. You can just open an online page and sell products and services to people all over the country, right? America has changed the economy because of technology. We are changing our economy because of technology. So technology is a very important thing. Then think of Middle Eastern countries. Why are they so rich? They're so rich because they have this new resources called oil. And in the last 30, 40 years, they made billions and trillions of dollars because of oil, right? So that's the second thing. Like in a country, if you can find oil or other kind of resources or coal or gas, that can boom the economy. So an economy can boom because of, let's say, technological changes or technological advancement, right? Um, or there's a new resources like oil or gas. Third, let's say if you find a new way to produce something, if production capacity increases, okay, let's say you have better qualified workers. For example, why do everyone go to China for production and manufacturing? Because it's not just because of cheap labor, it's also because they have the skills and knowledge and they can do things faster. It's because it's easy to do business there. They have people with better knowledge and with better skills. They also have the technology at the same time. And they have better way of working. So um, so growth happens because of three reasons, and these are the three reasons. When you have technological advancement, when you find a new economic resources like the oil or gas, and when there's an increase in productivity, when you have better skilled workers or better knowledge in production and manufacturing. A very good example I've already given is China, right? um okay, if you have any questions, do not hesitate, comment down on the comment section. We have a lot of viewers, which is great. Um, let me just check. Let me just yeah. Okay, so right now, look at this picture. So in this picture, you can see that a child is growing up, and then that person becomes an old woman or an old man, and this is a life cycle, right? You're born, and then you become a toddler, and then you're 8 or 9 years old. Then you hit your teenagers, you work, you leave your parents' house, you get married, and then eventually you become old. So this is a life cycle. Now, for everything there is a cycle. Okay, there is a cycle. Now, even for business, there is a cycle. This is a business cycle. So all businesses will go through this period of peak. Peak means when things are really going good, when you have a lot of money, right? When you spend a lot without thinking. And that leads to recession. And we'll talk about this. That leads to recession. Recession means, people will lose jobs. There's not enough of money, and people will not buy expensive goods. All those things happen. And then you have depression. That this period will have a long effect, and that's depression. Things are not going good again, and then slowly you will recover, then expansion, and then again the same thing happens. Okay, so a business cycle consists of peak, recession, depression, and then expansion or recovery. Okay, just like human life cycle, and this is very, very common. Okay, um, now, since we're talking about recession, let me just tell you some things in general. The recent recession that we had is it's called the Great Recession of 2008, or which is also known as the housing crisis. Now, what happened was the economy was booming. It was at this stage in peak in the early 2000s. I still remember people had a lot of money in early 2000, especially in Western countries, and people were spending like crazy. People were buying houses, people were spending money, and that's what it was happening. Now, what happened in early 2000? Since the economy was booming, now agents were selling houses to people or to low income families, right? Now, when you sell houses to low income families, you need to understand one thing. Let's say a low income family has income of $2,500. Let's say, right? Now there are, let's say, four members in the family. They have children as well. Now, when you sell houses to them, let's say they have to pay a monthly installment or a mortgage of $1,000. Now they're only left with $1,500, and they have two kids to raise. They have to pay their tuition fee. They have other expenses as well, and this becomes tight. And then what happens after a few months? This family will not be able to repay the debt that they have taken from the bank in the first place, right? And there the problem occurs. You start not paying them. Okay, you start not paying them. You become a defaulter with the bank because now you don't have enough money because you have a family to raise. You don't know where to spend. You have a lot of expenses, and that creates a debt. Now think about a million people or a billion people doing like this. So that's what happened in 2008. People were buying houses. Agents were selling houses to people even if they didn't have the money to pay monthly mortgages or monthly installments. Even some people were buying two, three houses at the same time. There's a whole documentary on YouTube. Please watch it. Okay, so let's say a family whose income was only $3,000 bought two houses because agents are sometimes they're worthless, they're not empathetic, because their job is just to sell. Because the more they sell, they will get more commission. They don't care after a point. They don't care whether you're being able to pay your mortgage or not. So one people ended up with two houses, let's say. How can you pay $2,000 or $3,000 a mortgage if your income is just $2,500 or $3,000? That's how the debt built up, right? And then the bubble burst in 2007, 2008 actually, right? Things became bad. Banks were not giving any more loans because now banks don't have money because people are not paying them. Because when you buy a house, you take loan from the bank has already paid the money for you. Now you need to pay the bank. Okay, now if you don't pay the bank, how banks will get the money, right? So that's the problem that they had. So that's recession, and the latest recession happened in 2008, right? So business cycle, it's a regular swing that happens, and it goes through this cycle when things are going very good, and when things are going very good, that actually leads to recession. Whatever happened in 2008, people were overspending than what they had, and that led them to recession in the first place, and that will continue. That continuation is depression, and then you recover. Okay, boom. Boom means everybody has a lot of money. Okay, but that leads to own destruction. You're spending, you're taking loans, you're buying two three houses, everything. People have more jobs, people are employing. So all these things happens. But when you overspend, like in recession, before the recession of 2008, people did overspend, right? People were buying houses instead. Even if they did not have a regular income, or even if they did not have a stable income, right? And they could not pay their banks, because when you buy a house, the banks will already have paid the money. So banks will not queue for the money. So boom is a very good period. Okay, when you're spending more, you're hiring more, people have jobs, you're buying more. But that actually leads to its own destruction. That leads to recession. Recession means falling demand because now banks don't have money. Um, their higher interest rate, companies don't have money. People will lose jobs because now you cannot afford to have more people, right? As some banks, some offices will be closed down. That's what happened in 2008. You can go and check on, in Google or YouTube. Many big businesses had to shut down, and that is a recession. Okay, because the debt has built up over the years. Okay, the bubble has burst. Now banks and companies don't have money, they cannot afford to hire employees. And slump or depression is that period that continues through. From 2008 to 2011 there was a slump because people lost jobs, everything was slow, people were not giving out loans, banks were not giving out loans, and these things happened. Okay, government is trying to fix things but they cannot. All these things are happening. After that you have recovery and growth. All the problem will be solved slowly. You are recovering, you're taking the corrective action. Okay, and things are falling back to place. If you look at recession of 2008, everything started becoming normal, I think, from the end of 2011 or 2012. It took around 3-4 years for everything to normalize, right? If you have any questions, do not hesitate to question me. Okay, but however, there are opportunities of recession. Okay, now during recession, the prices of expensive items like lands, properties, apartments, flats will go down. Cars, it will go down. You can afford them cheaply. It's happening now because of pandemic. The property prices have gone down. If you have cash, this is the right time to buy properties. I know that real estate developer, if they're trying to sell a house for 3 crores, now they're selling it for, let's say, 2.5 or 2, because now people have less money. Luxury items cannot be so expensive at this point. Even we reduced our tuition fees. For example, our IELTS used to be 16,500 and we reduced it to 14,000, because people don't have money. Now, if people don't have money, how can they buy your services? And especially for expensive items. Think about that. So that's an opportunity for recession. So during recession, if you have money, go and buy an apartment, go and buy cars, go and buy other products and services, because those things will come cheaper now. Demand for inferior goods will increase. By inferior good, I mean, let me explain you. Sainsbury's is a supermarket in England, and I used to buy a lot from Sainsbury's, right? Now, Sainsbury's has their own milk chocolate that only costs 90 pence, not even £1. 90 pence means 100 taka. While Cadbury costs £3, which means 300 taka. So Sainsbury's milk chocolate, which they manufacture on their own, they make it in their own factory, is cheaper. This means this is an inferior good. So I won't buy Cadbury's dairy milk because this is expensive. I have to spend £3 or 300 taka for this one. I can buy the same thing, milk chocolate, just for 100 taka. Right. And I used to do it. I was a student. I had less money back then. So instead of buying dairy milk, I went for inferior good, which was Sainsbury's own milk chocolate. Right. So instead of buying an expensive watch, a Rolex, you'll buy an average. Let's say you would buy a Guess watch or a Titan. It's still a brand, it's still good, but very less expensive than Rolex, because during times of recession you have less money and you want to cut your spending, you want to save money, you want to avoid unnecessary spending. So keep that in mind. Okay. Also in recession, what happens, it's also happening in pandemic, that people are closing down factories, people are asking employees to leave. In that scenario, what happens, the companies, they get more leaner, they get more fitter. You are getting rid of excess cost, you're getting rid of excess fat, and that's good in a way, people. Okay. So when you're closing down factories, because in these kind of situations, especially in recession, you will close down or you will stop things, or you will reduce expenses that is not required, and that is good. Because when we have a lot of money, think about peak. When we have a lot of money, you tend to spend for unnecessary item and unnecessary goods, right? আমরা অযথা খরচ করি. So when you have less money during recession or depression, you try to cut down your expenses, wastage, by closing down factories. It can be by getting rid of by getting rid of extra cost, by getting rid of extra employees, by reducing wastage. And that's good. That makes you more leaner, that makes you more fitter. Okay. Also, during tough times, employees and employers, companies and employees, they work closely to solve a problem. And that creates a good relationship between employees and employers. Okay. And that's good in a way, right? So recession is not all that bad. Recession is good. Recession will reduce the price of land and property, cars, especially expensive good. So this is the time. If you have money, this is the time to buy them, right? Demand for inferior good will increase. Demand for cheaper goods will increase, because now you don't want to spend more. You'll have good relationship between employers and employees. Also, the companies will get more leaner, more fitter by getting rid of excess fat. Okay, we don't need this factory. Let's close it down. We don't need this employee. Let them go away. We don't need that. So you're cutting down expenses. That's good, right? And the four key stages of recession is boom, boom, when everything is going good, peak, peak period, okay? When everything is going good, you have a lot of money, you're buying houses, you're buying this, you're employing people, and that leads to recession because you've overspent, right? You've taken loan when you couldn't afford, and that debt has built up. Now bank is pressurizing you because the bank has already paid for your house. They want your money. And what happens? You cannot pay the bank, and recession happens. There's less money in the market. People will lose jobs. Demand for goods and services will fall down, and that will continue. That's known as depression, or let's say slump. Okay, and that continues for 2-3 years when government is trying to take corrective measures. Things are not working. Okay, they will try to take corrective measures. I still remember the Obama administration was trying hard to take measures, and yes, they succeeded at the end. And then slowly everything goes back to normal, right? And then we talked about why economic growth is so important. So that's that. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to comment down on the comment section. We have a lot of viewers today. I hope you enjoyed my class. I will be back again tomorrow to finish off this chapter. This chapter is quite big. So today we had external economic influences on business activities, which is chapter 9, Business Studies, Cambridge A2. Thank you very much. I will see you soon again. Thank you. And please do not hesitate to subscribe to our page on Facebook. Just type in Fyruz Education Services. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Just type in Fyruz Education Services again. Great. Thank you very much.